Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Industry Insights. Doing a bit different this week. We had a few problems with Zoom, so we've swapped to Microsoft Teams for this episode. Hopefully it still all works the same. I'm joined this week by Maddy and Chris from BOC. How you guys doing?
Good.
Hey
How are
Cam.
you?
Cool. So you guys have been graduated from RMIT for 2 or 3 years now, and then you've been working all that time at BOC. Can you, for anyone who doesn't really know BOC too well, can you give us a bit of an overview or a bit more information about them as a company and maybe what they focus on doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So BOC originally started off as Commonwealth Industrial Gases quite a number of years ago, and over the course of the past 10 years have gone through a number of transitions, uh, eventually being bought out by the Linde Group, and then more recently merging with Praxair. So we've sort of gone from a large Australian or South Pacific only gas company to an international gas company.
Okay.
I guess in terms of the history, so now that we're talking in terms of the Linde Group and not
Yeah.
just BOC, Carl von Linde back in the early 1900s developed the first ever method for liquefaction of gases,
Oh
and
wow.
also separation of air as well. So basically, the fundamentals that all gas companies are built off of were started by that guy, and that's led to sort of what we see today all around the world.
Okay. Very cool. So are you mainly just like a gas manufacturing company, or is there like some uh, gas and safety equipment as well rolled in there, or is it mainly just focused on specialty gas products?
So there's a broad range of things that BOC do. We've sort of got, I guess, three main groups that it's broken up into. So we've got bulk, which is our big production facilities. There's one close to us in Sydney, in Port Kembla, that's capable of producing 1,000 tons per day of gas,
Okay.
of not of gas, sorry, of liquid. So so quite a lot of gas. Then there's the cylinder side of the business. So that's obviously for the smaller consumers,
Hmm.
and that can be your tradies or food business, food and beverage, and the hospital
Okay.
industry. So, and then we've also got CES, so customer engineering services. Basically, they're a platform built to go out to a customer and build and design some sort of service, and it could be anything from just installing a bulk liquid vessel
Hmm.
to creating an entire solution for a food manufacturing plant.
Okay. Very
Um,
cool. So you've kind of
so
got your fingers in a few different pies. You're in a few different aspects from
yeah,
the
yeah,
direct industries kind of side of things, as well as your basic consumables, and then you've even got the kind of project design and implementations arm of the business. So what would you
Yeah,
say
you've
is?
got the hard goods as well, Chris. So
I
we've got
said
Oh,
main. I said
yeah,
three
oh,
we've
main.
got the hard goods side of the business as
apparently
well.
just
So
just doesn't make the cut.
I guess just a regular person would be more familiar with our gas and gear stores, which are like the retail outlets that we have where people can go and buy the gas and also
Hmm.
consumables and whatnot.
Welding equipment and such.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, what would really be the main focus then? So you've obviously got those three or four main arms of the business. What would you say is kind of BOC's main focus? What are you best known for? Would you say?
Industrial and medical gases.
Yeah, industrial and medical.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's very interesting because obviously BOC, you hear industrial gases, industrial chemicals, you'd normally think like your propane, ethane, your kind of LPG products, but no, it's actually the medical gases that seem to be the big cash cow. So what would that just be? Just like your nitrous oxide type thing, or
Yeah, so medical oxy and I guess to some degree nitrous oxide. Yeah, we are, well, my site is the only site that produces nitrous oxide in
mm,
all of the South Pacific.
oh
So
wow,
um, if there's another gas company selling nitrous oxide, it comes from my plant. So um, but yeah, and then you've also got your medical airs, and there's a few other products, specialty products in there as well, for
okay.
breathing and life sciences.
Oh, very cool. So, I mean, you guys have been working there for a while. Now, can you maybe give us a bit of an idea of how you fit into BOC as a company?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll go first. So my role at the company is as the Regional Health and Safety Advisor. So my role is based in the head office as a centralised role. So I look after, I guess, health and safety and environment for all of RSP as a whole. So that includes Australia, New Zealand and Pacific Islands.
Okay.
So my role, essentially, I do a lot of projects that branch out to all of the regions. So in all of the SHEC space.
Okay. So is that mainly just in like the project services side of things, or is that also for like your consumable products as well, doing like the health and safety advice and maybe like your procedural safety standards?
Yeah, so I mean, in my role in this SHEC team, we're sort of more of an enabling function within the business, assisting with all of the other business functions that exist, so like our industrial and on-site functions.
Okay, cool. And Chris, how about yourself, mate?
So I'm the process engineer at the Sydney Operations Centre. SOC for short. I'll refer to it as that a few times because otherwise it'll get a bit boring.
The acronyms are pretty hard to drop once you get used to them.
There's a lot of acronyms.
Like every big company.
Excuse us if we drop you.
Yeah. So SOC is from what I've been told, it's the largest industrial gas site in the world.
Oh wow.
It's based in Wetherill Park in Sydney, and essentially our function is mainly around distribution of gas cylinders, but also some production as well, which makes it a little bit more complex and unique.
Yeah, definitely.
So my role is process engineer, and essentially what that entails is a lot of engineering management of change. So the Linde Group and of course BOC has got a really big emphasis on management of change, and basically anything that we change on a system, even to the smallest little things, has to be properly captured and engineered.
Okay.
So when we're looking at pressures of in excess of 300 bar, there's a high risk around particularly material change.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of my job focuses on that side of things, as well as breakdowns, and I get to do some project stuff as well, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's always one of the more interesting sides of the business, because it tends to be the traditional kind of view a lot of students have of chemical engineering when they first start going through university. They see that as kind of like the only way you can really apply your skills. But there's so many different other options out there.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we've talked about it a little bit already. So Maddy, you're based in the head office, and then Chris, you're out on site. How many sites across Australia, or maybe better, I should ask, across the South Pacific, do BOC actually own and operate?
So cylinder sites.
Ones.
Yeah, cylinder sites. There's more or less one in every state.
One in each state, yeah.
There's one in the North Island, one in the South Island for New Zealand. There's actually two in Queensland, so there's one in Townsville and one in Rocklea. And then in terms of bulk, again, I think the main one is Port Kembla in New South Wales. There's Cryo Centre in Altona. Yeah,
we've got a number in Victoria. Yeah, a centre in Dandenong, probably the biggest one.
Hydro Land in Altona.
Altona as well. We've got them all over WA as well.
Yeah, lots in WA.
Perth and Kwinana.
I can imagine with all the mining operations.
We've got a helium plant in Darwin.
Which is the only helium plant in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
you guys are really collecting those titles as like biggest plant here, only plant there. Anything to really get BOC wrapped up there. So I mean, you guys have obviously got a wide range of products, especially like some of your more commercial gases and your specialty gases. How do you actually collect, manage, and distribute that entire product portfolio? I mean, you've got at least a couple hundred, if not 1,000 products. Are you making them all, and then distributing them, or do you maybe source some from other suppliers?
So from our regular product range, which I think is somewhere in the realm of 380, 400 products, which are more or less sort of a click and order product, I guess we'd call it, not made to order. A lot of those, if not all of them, are produced from scratch at some point by us. So
okay, wow.
Generally, it would come from some sort of bulk plant. It's delivered to, for example, the Sydney operations site. It will be put into a redistribution vessel, and then we vaporize that gas and put it into a cylinder, essentially.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so really you're taking that whole kind of start product, going through the whole refining process, creating all your products in-house, and then going through to distribution and handling that whole side of the business as well.
Yep, that's right, yeah.
Very cool. So, I mean, keeping all of that in mind, Maddy, this is probably a better question for you. How do you keep on top of all the different kind of safety aspects and regulations and standards that you have to keep on top of for all these products? Are you kind of involved in a lot of that, or are you mainly just in the operational safety side of the business?
So in terms of like safety regulations and looking after the products that we put out to the market, we have global teams that look after that and take into consideration all of the regulations for each local area that the products are going to be released in. So yeah, it is a bit of the SHEC team are involved in that, but we do have regional experts who are involved in doing that sort of stuff as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I imagine there must be a lot to kind of keep on top of, so you do really need those global teams and all hands on deck for it all. So then,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe following on from that and taking it back to like the project side of the project services side of the business, then, how many different teams? How big is that side of the business? What do you really deliver as a service? Is it just your natural gas products things, or are you kind of consulting on larger projects and trying to get your products in there as just one kind of solution in a bigger project?
Is it for me personally, or in terms of like business capability?
Maybe just in terms of business capability, and then with your own experience with that side of the business.
Yeah, so I haven't had too much exposure to the customer engineering services side of things, but essentially BOC is more or less split up into states. So the Sydney team is more or less the team for New South Wales, and then you've got all of the rest. But then you've also got central functions. Okay. So obviously Maddy's part of a central function in terms of the health and safety, but we also have a central engineering team, and then in terms of CES, it's the same sort of thing. So they've got teams in each state, and then they've also got sort of a more centralized team as well.
Okay.
And basically they are doing some pretty massive projects. So there's a big LNG project happening in Tasmania at the moment. There's a hydrogen project that's been a pilot that's been going on in Queensland, which I think is attached to Rockley.
No, Bull Island.
Oh, Bull Island. So yep, there you go. And and really, to my knowledge, whatever the customer wants, we are able to provide. So from a gases front, if a customer comes and tells us that they want 500 tons of liquid nitrogen a month, and they want a big pipeline that goes from here to there, and they also want some oxygen and some other bits and pieces as well, then we'll just go, yep, this is what you need to do, and we'll put it all together for you, and we'll install it, and when we walk away, it'll be ready to go.
Oh, beauty. It's always nice when you can get your hands on all aspects of that kind of project, where you're both delivering the solution and then you're charging the client for the actual product that goes through that solution as well. It's always a win-win.
Yeah.
Then we'll charge you for the rest of the gas that we deliver to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other one that nobody ever really considers, the cost of delivery. When you're sending gas by truck, or when you're even sending like water, or even disposing of waste, it adds up very, very quickly. It can skyrocket and completely blow out some costs.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Distribution for us is one of our highest costs. We have the highest distribution cost in all of APAC, just due to the size of Australia,
country,
essentially.
Exactly.
Do you know how many million kilometres do we do a year?
Oh, it'd be ridiculous.
I think I'm just guessing. I think it's around 40 million.
Yeah, 40 million Ks. I think that's, yeah.
It sounds about right. It's about the kind of time of year you wish we actually had a decent rail network to kind of rail it everywhere.
Oh,
Well, we do use the rail network between SA and NT, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly big tanker trucks and then our cylinder trucks as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, with all those kind of different specialty gases and with those customer requests coming in for different products, is there like an R&D component of BOC at all, or are you just mainly having like a little tinker with some existing products to try and meet those needs?
There definitely is an R&D component now, and 2 years ago, on the site that I work at, they commissioned what's called Project Excalibur, which
very
is
cool.
state-of-the-art specialty gases laboratory.
Okay.
And basically, at the moment, I guess they're still sort of coming to realization as to what they've built there, because the equipment that they have is ultimately capable of producing gases to the part per billion spec.
Oh, that's always nice.
So at the moment, I think products they're working with go down to sort of the 0.1 ppm, which is quite substantial, but there's a lot of capability in that plant. And I guess coming from a facility that was built in, I think, the 1970s to something that was built in around 2018.
It's definitely a lot nicer.
There's a lot to learn, and those guys are, as the industry discovers that we've got the capability to do more, and they keep asking us for more, then the guys in that lab are I guess, looking for new ventures.
Yeah. So it definitely sounds like
seeing what's going to work.
Yeah. So it definitely sounds like business is going to be picking up for you guys very shortly, especially some of those specialty products. But have you seen kind of over the last 5-10 years or so? I know you haven't been at BOC that long, but have you seen some kind of increases in demand for some of these gas products?
It varies.
It does vary.
It does vary, but I think one of the biggest ones we're seeing at the moment is a decrease in demand for acetylene for cutting gases, and an increase for argon and for other shielding gases or shielding mixtures. Right, so with laser cutting and all that sort of coming in over the last 10 years, especially, shielding gases have been going up quite a bit. And then you've also got your LNG, which is a massive emerging market at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of emphasis at the moment around large boats running on LNG rather than diesel, because of the amount of pollution that it.
I've seen some of Shell's tankers. They're looking at using the LNG they're carrying to actually fuel the ships, so you don't actually have to carry a fuel load with it. You just kind of take it from the bulk delivery.
And I think it's the Spirit of Tasmania and a few other large, that have made that transition.
Okay.
So that's another massive one that's coming out of it as well. And then of course the hydrogen, which is a big push from Germany. So over there they're doing a lot of hydrogen car projects, and that's sort of coming across to us as well. I don't think we're going to push the car side as much, but I think hydrogen works very, very well for buses and for transportation, which refuels at a common point. Definitely. I think it's going to be a really massive thing. So
yeah, for sure. So I mean, you guys are obviously involved in very different kind of aspects of the business. I mean, Maddy, you're at head office. Chris, you're on site. What does a normal day kind of look like for you guys? Well, what are you normally responsible for? What are just your kind of daily chores, you could say?
I'll go first. I mean, as a central function, I'm usually answering a number of queries from anyone from sales, someone from the production sites, just in terms of getting a HSE perspective on certain things. I also work on a number of projects within the SHEC function. So whether it's like at the moment, for example, I'm working on a number of things around mental health.
Okay.
for the workplace, transport safety. I'm doing a couple of things in that, and also induction management and contractor management as well, for those sorts of projects. That's sort of my day-to-day, but it's always changing, depending on what our safety needs are and what projects we need to focus on.
And then I guess for me, my job is never the same. I think it's safe to say.
Always exciting, then.
It's organised chaos at best. We've got over 80,000 gas cylinders on site. We've got 100 staff, and there's a lot of equipment that's running.
Yeah.
And if something breaks, it's all hands on deck, drop everything else, and then try and pick up the pieces later. So I think my job, from an engineering perspective, is extremely exciting, and it's something where you're always going to dive in not knowing exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, as an engineer in university, I think coming out into a position where you can just start applying your random problem solving skills to an issue, that's I think that's essentially the gist of my role.
Yeah, so it's always quite exciting when you can apply those skills. So then I suppose the next question I've got to ask is, how did you feel your studies at RMIT actually prepared you guys for the role? Did you feel kind of comfortable when you went in, or was it a steep learning curve maybe?
I think it was a very steep learning curve. I don't think there's a lot that university can do to prepare you for something like my role.
Definitely not.
But that's all part of it. And unless you're really learning process specific things, a lot of what you learn will be on the job.
Yeah, 100%.
But in saying that, your studies do build the foundation of understanding.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important to let people know that you're not going to just walk onto a site and start telling people what to do, because that's not how it works.
So maybe what are some of the skills you think you've picked up from that steep learning curve and from working on site or even in a head office?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm not in an engineering specific role, so I'm not doing a mass balance at my desk every day. But
neither am I.
But like the things that I've taken from uni that I use in my role very often are things like in the process safety side of things, like from Doug's lectures. Process safety, HAZOPs and stuff. So having the background knowledge of how a chemical process works is really beneficial when thinking about safety and the safety of our plants and our people. In terms of like things that you've had to like pick up on the job, it's all like your soft skills and stuff. So like how to communicate in the workplace,
how to send emails.
Especially ones that aren't a page long.
How to present your ideas to people and persuade people to get on board with your ideas. It's all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So then, of course, the next question naturally is just, how did you guys actually find your first jobs at BOC? Have you come through a grad program, or did you just fire off a couple applications?
It's a bit different. I'll let you go first, Chris.
Yeah, well, I actually applied for an internship with Elgas, which is part of the parent company as well.
Yeah.
And I was unsuccessful. And then about a year later, I applied for another internship, and this was just after I graduated, and I actually got it. So I was a graduate in an intern sort of role.
I think it's important to note, though, as well, that this particular internship, you had a connection from outside.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, I did have a connection. Yep.
Okay.
So I got the internship. I worked for 6 months.
Yep.
And about halfway through, my line manager encouraged me to apply for the graduate program.
Oh, nice.
And then from there, I had to go through the whole process in terms of the the assessment center and everything. And I managed to secure a role in the graduate program.
Okay.
And then it was all up from there.
Yeah, for me, I just went through your regular traditional hiring process where a job is advertised online, apply for it, do your phone interviews, psychometric testing and whatnot. I think for me it was also handy that Chris was already working at BOC when I applied for the job. So
definitely
I think
does help have that inside
there was
connection.
definitely a good word of mouth that went around for me. So yeah, I think for both of us getting our jobs at BOC, it definitely helped to know someone in the business. Yeah, I know people probably hear this a lot. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah,
that's definitely the case for us, I think.
Definitely
networking is definitely very important.
Absolutely.
When you're thinking about roles that you may want to work in future. But yeah.
And it doesn't have to be so. I think the important thing to know is it doesn't have to be someone that you know well. It just has to be someone that you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And someone that remembers who you are. So I think that's important to know.
Definitely.
Yep.
And so how are you guys finding the grad program? Can you maybe give us a bit more of an overview about it?
So the BOC graduate program is, well, in a general sense, applies of 2 rotations.
Okay.
So it's a 2-year program. 2 rotations. It was a little bit different for me because I had the previous working experience. So I sort of stayed working at the Sydney Operations Centre and just sort of transitioned into a slightly different role, but remaining on the same site. But I would say for 90% of the graduates, you get exposure to different parts of the business.
Yeah, which is always great.
So some people go into sales, some people go into marketing, some people do a bit of data related stuff.
Yep.
And then other people sort of rotate through the engineering roles. So whether that's customer engineering services or generally grads are favoured for process engineering roles.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
On different sites, and that can include New Zealand as well. So we do get grads going across the ditch as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and is it just something that you just generally apply for online, or is there some kind of application process?
Yeah, so I think the applications actually just opened.
They're just opened,
for this year's round of grads for BOC. So yeah, I think it's just an online application process. Yep. Submit your resume and your cover letter and whatnot, and then the people that get through, they do, this time they'll probably be definitely doing a Zoom meeting. With COVID, there's not much face-to-face stuff anymore.
Yeah,
so I dare say they would be probably doing the assessment centres remotely via
that could be the case.
Video meeting as well.
Is that just like some online psychometric testing stuff, or do they actually get you kind of in like a meeting together to chat to you?
Yeah, so I mean, other than the interviews, they get you to do a psychometric test, which is a number of tests that test like your logic skills, math skills, your reading skills. I think most jobs have those sorts of tests that they get you to do nowadays to sort of standardise yourself against the rest of the applicants. And then the assessment centre is where they get you together with a number of other grads, and they get you to do sort of like activities that assess you all together and how you interact with one another.
Okay.
They ask you questions and stuff as well.
Cool. And I suppose the last question I've got to ask you guys is, where do you think your careers will go next? Are you planning on hitting that CIO or CEO role at BOC anytime soon, or kind of what do you think's next for you guys? Where do you think you'll go?
For me, I think I enjoy my role in the central HSE function. I think I definitely would like to stay within this sort of role, maybe get a bit of exposure to the on-site stuff as well. So
that's always good, especially for the SHE stuff.
Sort of working and stuff. There are roles within my team where people work a lot to do with safety management systems and stuff, and the major hazard facility safety cases. So that sort of stuff is what I'm sort of interested in moving on to.
Okay. And how about yourself, Chris?
So for me, I think I'm pretty ingrained in my in my technical side of things. So
You're like getting your hands dirty on site.
Yeah, so you do see quite a fair few people coming out of engineering degrees doing it for a few years and then moving sort of more towards the management pathway. I think for me, still being only 25, I've got a lot left to learn as an engineer. So hopefully hold on to my technical roots and maybe move into a more senior engineering role. So whether that's managing a small team or moving into a specialty role as well. So we've got a number of specialists in the company that know a lot about a very specific thing, and it's quite exciting to be part of those teams. So that would be interesting as well.
Cool. Well, it's been absolutely great listening to you guys and hearing all about your experiences at BOC. I think that's just about all the time we got for this week. So thanks again for coming on. For the guys listening at home, hopefully you guys got a lot out of this episode. These guys have got a lot of experience to pass on to you guys. If you haven't already seen, we've started posting all the videos on YouTube as well, so make sure to share them around, like, comment any questions you've got for upcoming episodes. But for now, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Cam. See ya.
See ya.